Welcome back to another episode of Uploaded and Unfiltered, the podcast in which I, your host Jermaine, interviews another content creator in regards to their journey thus far. Before we get my guest on the line, I'm going to read her bio so we can get a little bit of information on her, and then we're going to have an awesome conversation. The Female Phenom is a horror enthusiast and full-time content creator. She is also a self-taught special effects makeup artist, mom, wrestling, and true crime fan. Additionally, she identifies as a Gore whore and is the founder of Scream Reapers. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce my guest for the evening, the one, the only, the Female Phenom. Thank you and welcome to the show.
Hi! I love that intro, my favorite one. I love it.
Hey, I'm using this as an opportunity to try to do like some voice acting for people's intros.
Oh,
so you
my.
Cut that
It's
and use
awesome.
it, you know? Yes. Phenom, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. Before we even, I know I went at the beginning of these episodes, I usually go over the flow for people. We're still going to stick with that, but Gore Horde caught me off guard.
Yeah.
I'm scared to Google that one only because, now we're going to get into it. So me and horror games have a funny history. I started my channel because I wanted to get over the fear of playing horror games. Mm-hmm. And so I had this section called Scared Cryptless where I'd play whatever people told me to play. And
I remember that.
Man. Anyways, can you explain what a gore is? I think I know, but.
All right. So my definition is, and I hope nobody is looking at me like this lady need to be evaluated. But so I worked in the ER for about 10 years as a nursing assistant. Mm-hmm. And I saw everything from gunshot wounds to things poking out of orifices.
Oh my God.
And for some reason I thought that would give me a weak stomach or stuff like that. And then I started using that as how to perfect my special effects makeup craft. So I'm looking at things and I was trying to be discreet about it, but I'm looking at the human anatomy and I'm looking oh my God. For instance, this one guy had he was a construction worker and he had a pole going from the back of his head and his eyeball was out. And everybody is I'm not going in there. And I'm I'll do it. And they're looking at me what? And I'm I said, I got special effects makeup coming up for Halloween. I need to see how this looks. And I'm looking and I never forget it. The doctor, the attending physician for that night, he was you're a horror fan, aren't you? And I'm yeah. And then so my nickname on the unit was Gore Whore because I love gore. So that was the running joke of the ER that I'm the Gore whore because I'm always the first one to go in with bandages in my car. And I'm I'll go in and help. And they're looking what is wrong with you? I just couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. So it just stuck with me ever since.
Oh, that is awesome. And you know what? You need somebody in the spot to be yo, I got this because a pole through the back of the head, I don't.
Yes. Oh my good. And I'm coming home and I'm telling my mom and I'm Ma, guess what I saw tonight in the ER? And she's let me get my Pepto-Bismol.
Yes.
And it's but she sat and she listened and she was are you okay? And I'm yeah, I'm good. But
you know what? It's not real. What? It's just somebody. It's not me. Right. That's crazy. I don't envy you, but hey, everybody has their special talents.
Yes.
Phenom, let's go ahead and get this conversation started, even though we already did. But how did you get started in content creation? What was the origin story for the Phenom?
Oh my God. So I started on YouTube. I was vlogging my wedding. I got married in 2013.
Okay.
And I was vlogging my wedding, like DIY because I did my whole wedding by myself.
Oh, damn.
So I was vlogging it, and then I started doing like mommy vlogs and stuff like that. And then my oldest son, he was doing stop motion on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, well, what is that? And he was like, oh, it's stop motion. And then he's showing me all of these things, and he's showing me how to edit on YouTube. And then I left it alone.
Mm-hmm.
And then Friday the 13th, the game came out.
Oh, yeah.
And I was playing with some people, and one of the ladies was a content creator, and she lived here in Baltimore.
Okay.
And I'm playing the game, and when I'm Jason, I'm making all of these like Jason voices and saying quotes from the movie, and everybody is like cracking up, right? And she's like, do you stream? And I'm like, no, what is that? And she said, well, she said, do you watch YouTube? And I was like, yeah. And I started naming all of these people that I watch, like Jazzy Guns and Mira and Poise and who did I mention? Corey Kenshin, Berlizzi, all of these people.
Yeah.
And she was like, you would really be good at this. And I said, playing video games? And she said, yeah. And I'm like, okay. She said, well, she added me as a friend. We started becoming close. And she's like, did you think about streaming yet? Like, she was really pushing it. And I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, you would really be good at it. So she told me, she was like, I said, well, I don't have any, equipment or anything. She said, you don't need it. Just, she said, you got a PlayStation and Xbox. She said, you can stream from there. And she sat down one day and she showed me how to do it. And then people started asking, like, well, how can I donate? How can I do this? And I'm like, well, what is that? And she said, girl, she said, let them help you or whatever. And I was like, I don't know if and at that time, I'm like, I don't know if I'm that good for people to be paying me. So it's like, I feel bad. I don't want to take these people money. Like, it was a mess.
Okay.
And she said, well, listen, she said, you'll be fine. Just, be yourself. You'll be fine. And one day we were talking, and she said, well, I'm upgrading my setup. And she got like this $7,000 rig. It was bad.
Okay.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And I came over to our house, and I was like, oh, my God, this is nice. And one Saturday, she said, well, where are you? And I said, well, I'm just out running errands with the kids. And she was like, are you close to Towson? And I said, yeah. And she said, well, meet me at the Micro Center. I have something for you. So I was like, what is she going to get? I'm thinking, something like, because I know I was admiring her mic. And she said, well, if I get another one, you can have it.
Nice.
So I'm thinking she was going to give me a mic. And she upgraded her setup, and she gave me her old PC.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and she said, I said, I can't take this. And she was like, listen, she said, you're really good at it. She said, I heard your story about how, you were battling mental health. And the one thing that got you back feeling like yourself again was gaming. And she said, just promise me that you'll use this PC and you will be happy again. I said, well, how much do you want me to give you? She said, I'm not taking anything. She said, I just want you to do good. And I was in tears. I'm like bawling, and I'm like, I can't take this. And she said, please. She said, I always wanted to do this for somebody, because I never had anybody to look out for me. She said, so just pay it forward and just do good things. And I got home and I called everybody, and I'm in tears, and I'm like, she gave me this PC. And they were like, yeah, you got it. And I never forget it. I hooked up the PC. I went to Walmart and bought me a Logitech camera. She gave me a Blue Yeti mic.
Yes.
And I had these 2 lamps. They were like these LED lamps. And I was looking on YouTube, and I'm like, how can I add lighting to my stream? And this guy, he took like printer paper and folded it in half.
Okay.
And I was like, what wow, he just made soft lights. So I had these
shit.
two, I never forget, I had like these 2 Amazon boxes and my PC and one monitor, and I had these like makeshift soft lights, my Blue Yeti mic, and I was like, I'm in business
Hell
now.
yeah.
And it just took off ever since. It just took off ever since, and I never looked back.
That is amazing. I love hearing about people's first setups because it really doesn't take that much to get started.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
That is awesome. You know what? This is a perfect segue into the second section because you mentioned something in regards to when you was first coming up and receiving donations and feeling a certain way about that. So in 2024, we're jumping to our current mindset. You're a partner streamer. You're doing amazing things out there. Where's your mindset at now in regards to the donation piece? Just because I'm super interested in that. And then overall, how are you feeling about your content?
I feel good about my content. I tried the variety streamer thing and I was not happy. My first love is always going to be horror. And I felt like that, for one, there wasn't enough horror streamers out there, especially who look like me. And I wanted to contribute. I don't want to be the poster child or the forefront. I want to contribute to that pool of horror content. And I wasn't happy. It was like, I feel like I'm playing this game for everybody else, not for myself. And then when I made the switch back to strictly horror content, I'm at peace and I'm fine. As far as like the donations and stuff, I always feel bad because of the state that our economy is in. And I see so much of, I always get the people in my chat that's like, well, I really want to donate or I really want to sub, but I'll do it Friday. And I'm like, y'all do not have to do that. Like, just share my content. That is free. Like, and I can't stress that enough. Like, I would like to be able to, like, plan a future for my kids based off of content creation. Like, I want this to be my career, right?
Exactly.
But what a lot of people do not understand is that they go to streaming and then they think that they're just going to get like $100 donations and 100 subs, and it doesn't work like that. So where you make your money at is through sponsorships, through partnerships. And the only way that you can get those opportunities is by getting your name out there. So I always tell people, while donations are important, if you ask any content creator, unless they are like sitting at high viewership, like 10,000 views and stuff like that, they're not going to make, the amount that, everybody is expecting.
Right.
A lot of times people see check mark and they're like, oh, you rolling in dough.
Exactly.
No, that's not, that's not the case.
Right.
It's a lot that goes into it. And it's a lot that, this industry is really rough, especially for Black women. It's and moms. It's really rough. So, while I appreciate the donations, I always push for people to retweet my tweets.
Hell yeah!
Share my TikToks. Like, put me in your stories on Instagram, please.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because that's where we get that's where we get the traction and get our footing at.
Yes. I think, would you say it was safe to say that like the check mark, unlike any of these platforms, but specifically Twitch, like that's just another tool for you to get more sponsorships?
I think it is, because you do have a lot of companies who, I've even heard when I pitch things for Screen Reapers, I even had a company say, well, how many is partners? And I'm like, why is that important?
Exactly.
But you know what I mean? And it's like, I'll even have them say, well, I'll say, whenever I have an opportunity, I also say, well, when you get a minute, I would like to talk to you about Screen Reapers. I have a lot of amazing creators. And it always hurts my feelings when I hear them say, well, right now we're just looking for partners, or right now we're working with partners. And I'm like, oh my God, like, it's so many talented people on this team. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I try to, I know I try not to have a negative outlook, but it kind of puts a bad taste in my mouth because I know how many of my friends are talented, how many of my team members are talented, and I know how it felt to be sitting as an affiliate and not having any direction or any help.
Right.
So it's like, and I always tell like gaming companies in meetings or when I have the opportunities with Twitch to meet with them, their staff, like y'all really need to listen to the affiliates. Y'all really need to listen to smaller creators because those are your supporters. You know what I mean? Not to say like as a partner, I just said F the game. But like when you think about it and you look at these creators who are at that level, they're hungry and they're looking for those opportunities. So when they get that game key, they could possibly like blow your game up for the next 6 months.
Exactly.
Versus where a partner, they got this long ass log of all these games that they have to play and they have to create content for. They're only going to, and it's not, the shade, like the game isn't good.
Right.
But when you're booked and busy, your deliverables, if you have to play that game for 4 hours and you're getting paid for it, you have to do that and then move on to the next game.
Right.
Versus someone seeing the longevity and all of the future DLCs coming out and all that stuff. Like I try to pitch that so bad to these companies, but they're just like, they don't hear me.
Yeah.
They don't hear, and it's so frustrating.
Exactly.
It is.
Yeah, because they're not in this space, they don't see how hungry affiliates are.
Yeah.
If they get a game that like, this is my bread and butter, this is the only thing I'm playing, there's a lot of content coming from that.
Yes. Yes.
So in regards to the Stream Reapers, how long have you had that team put together, and what do you see that going in the future? Or where would you like it to go?
Oh my goodness. So Screen Reapers was a idea that I had in my head. I was a member of some amazing organizations when I first started out. And I kept asking in these organizations, does anybody do special effects makeup? Does anybody play horror games? And they were like, no. But then when it was time to collab, they would collab with me. But I felt bad because I felt like, am I making them do something they don't want to do? And then I would stream and people would come in and be like, oh my God, you love horror games and, da 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 da. So I was looking around for like horror spaces, and then I would get in those horror spaces and they weren't so safe, or I felt like I was out of place. And I'm like, oh my God, like I have to do something.
Right.
And I wrote this idea down on paper. I'll never forget it. And I sat on it for like a year.
Yeah.
And then I found out that Yo Brandy, she's the founder of Brown Girl Gamer Code. And she is into horror as well. And one day her and I were like talking, and I was like, Brandy, I got this idea. And she was like, what is it? And I was telling her, and I said, but I feel like I need to wait. And she was like, girl, what do you wait? We need this. And when she said that, I was like, okay, it's time.
Yeah.
And she was like, you got to get this thing rolling. Like she was on me. Like she was on me. Like, did you figure this out? Did you figure that out? Do you need help? Like she was so supportive and gave me that push. And I was like, okay, I need to do this.
Right.
And I remember when I introduced it, everybody was so excited. And I was like, okay, this is scary, but this is good.
Right.
And I never forget it. Like at that time, I got like 2 applications coming in, and the rest were like invites of like people who I loved and I admired, and I really wanted them to be a part of it. And then when it first started, I think we had like a group of like 10, maybe 15 members.
Yeah.
And it was cool. And then I started getting, well, are you opening up applications and da 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 da? I heard about it. I would like to be a part of it. And I was like, oh God, it's really happening. So then we opened up applications for that.
Yeah.
For that quarter. And then we got like 5.
Okay.
And we got interviewed by a well-known horror blog called Dread Central.
Nice.
And I really wasn't expecting it to like go far. You know what just my mindset, like, being in this business, I was like, okay, that's good. And then after that interview, I started getting DM.
Okay.
And I mean DM after DM. And I met with my admins and they were like, Phenom, you're going to have to open this back up. It's like, it got to the point where they were like DMing the admins like, have you talked to Phenom? Is she opening up applications? And then like some of the Reapers were like, I have this friend. And I'm like, how can I tell them no? Like, they my favorite people. So I was like, okay. I said, I'm going to open it back up. And the plan was because I wasn't expecting that many applicants.
Yeah.
So the plan was to like, have the application open for like 30 days and then we make the decision afterwards. Kryptonite, we got over, I want to say, I counted about 270 applications.
What?
Yeah, and I was like, I had a panic attack because I'm like, I can't tell all of these awesome people no, but at the same time, I was so grateful and I was so like blown away, and I'm like, oh my God. So I was like, okay, we got to narrow this down to like 10 or 15. And I'm like, how am I going to do this? And I had my admins help. Oh my God, they're so amazing.
Yeah,
they were
awesome.
like, looking at apps and, giving their opinion. And then we got like our group. And then they got in, they were so happy. Like, and that made me feel like I was doing something right.
That is awesome.
Yes. So I felt bad because I was like, I saw the tweets where they were like, well, unfortunately I didn't get in. And I was like, no, I hate those tweets. I hate them. And like, I felt bad. So then I started saying, well, okay, if you stream for like this amount of time, or if you, show me that you really want to, I didn't say this to them, but I'm thinking to myself, like, well, there may be a possibility that we'll do invite.
Okay.
So I think 1 or 2 more people in, and then they were like so excited. And then we got people who were not women of color who were so excited that they forgot. And they were like apologizing and like, oh my God, I didn't read I just saw Screen Reapers was open and I felt so bad.
Hey.
I said, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but this is just for us for right now.
Right?
So,
that's awesome.
Of course we got the trolls who came in and was like, well, I don't understand why this, normal stuff. But it was such a good thing. Where I see Screen Reapers is I want some of my members like hosting like the Fangoria Awards, doing red carpets for like horror movie premieres. I'm working on things where I'm trying to get them exposure and I'm trying to make sure that they are learning. If not all of the things that I have learned, the things that, just come past me by word of mouth. Like I try my best to like speak their name in rooms because they deserve it.
Hell yeah.
And I want a lot of like, gore whores and final girls out here that look like me to like, showcase, our talents. Like we got so many amazing creators, like anywhere from horror artists, like horror novelists. Oh my gosh. We even have like, people who have experience in unboxings, red carpet premiere, movie premieres, all of those things. And I'm like, they need to be seen like really bad. So
first and foremost, congrats on going through with an idea that you had written down over a year ago.
Yes.
I feel like stories like this always is a good example to, hey, if you have an idea, just see what happens with it. Even if it's a year, 2 years later. If you had the idea, I think it is telling us it was a good one. So you might as well see what happens. Also, just because it's me and I know it sucks to tell people that they can't do something and they really want to, but like you made something that people were like, losing their minds to get into. Like they're actively like, oh, I would love to be a part of this team. That's awesome. I like shout out to that.
Yes. I'm so happy, but I'm so sad. It's like a catch-22 because I don't want anybody to feel left out, and I don't want to feel, but I can't like take everybody because I didn't want one of those teams where, and this is no shade to other teams, but I wanted something that was like family and like community based. You know what I'm like? Because this is my tribe. Like Scream Reapers is my tribe. So I wanted something that was small, but I also wanted it large enough to where like people know who we are.
Exactly.
But it's not. And I wanted I wanted everyone to be able to build relationships and not feel like that they can't like communicate or hang out with me per se. You know what I mean? I wanted to have that relationship with them because I need that. You know what? I need them just as much as they need me because I was lonely out here. So,
you know what? Even though you said no shade to those teams, I'm throwing shade at those teams because if you start one of these big teams and you have no vision for that team, fuck you. That's all. That's it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and slide into our next section, which is the lessons learned section. What lessons have you learned specifically because you started creating content?
Oh my gosh. Contract.
Ooh, okay.
Contracts. I cannot stress that enough. And I'm speaking to every content creator, not just because affiliates can make moves too. Y'all can do y'all big ones without a check mark. I can't stress that enough.
Right.
But I had this idea. I had a favorite restaurant.
Okay.
And I had this idea that I wanted to do a makeup palette that was based off of my favorite restaurant.
Gotcha.
I had a meeting with them and I pitched this idea. Like I worked really hard on it. I think I worked on it for like 6 months. Like I want to say half of the 3 months was me like talking myself out of it, and the other 3 months was like me actually doing the presentation, doing my script, all of this stuff. Like I worked really hard. And I had the meeting, I pitched it to them, and they were like, oh, well, this is a really great idea. We never thought of this. And well, right now we're not working with makeup artists and content creators, but we will definitely keep your contacts in my Rolodex. And I was sad, but at the same time, I'm like, it's not a no. So I'm going to think positive.
Right.
And 6 months later, I was looking on Twitter and my idea was pitched, was like, this premiered, my idea that I gave them. They actually decided to partner with a well-known makeup company.
Wow.
And I was so hurt. I was like, they stole and you hear about these things all the time.
Yeah.
And you think, well, I'm not big enough for that to happen to me, or I'm not well-known, or I'm not even, at that point where somebody could do that to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was so hurt. And I remember I got on the phone with one of my friends and I was talking to them and she was like, well, did you do a NDA or a contract before going into the meeting? And I said, no, what is that? And she's like, oh, girl, we need to sit down and talk.
Yeah.
And she told me at that time, she was like, you need a entertainment lawyer. You need this, you need that. And I'm what? I'm just playing video games. She's like, no, ma'am. You in the big leagues now.
Yeah, you a business
taking,
now.
Yeah, you taking meetings. Like, you have to protect yourself. And I'll never forget that. And it's like, I can't really, and a lot of people are like, are you still eating there? I would be so, and I'm not going to lie. I was like, F them and
right.
I'm never going in that place again. But it was a lesson. I couldn't get too upset because they're not going to say to me, well, to protect you for this meeting, you should probably have this and you should. They're not going to say that because they are going to assume that I already know this. And they're going to assume that everything is okay, just like I did.
Right.
But I have later learned about contracts. I have also learned my worth. I can't stress that enough. There's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of companies who will try to lowball you.
Right.
They will try to push you to do things that you don't want to do or that you don't feel comfortable doing. So I think the biggest lesson along with contracts is to like stay true to yourself. Don't tolerate and don't accept less than what you are worth. So,
Hell yeah.
mm-hmm.
And I think you could take that everywhere.
Oh yes. Oh
That's
yeah.
a life lesson right there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Dope. That's thank you for that. I never
Yeah.
contracts has not come up in the 50 episodes we've done so far.
Oh yeah.
So I wish one day I'm gonna have awards and be like, this is the first time this topic has come up. Here's your award.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just spitballing. All right, Phenom, we're gonna jump into one of my favorite sections, which is the advice section. This is where we tell another content creator of your choice a piece of advice that you've either wanted to hear yourself, or you learned, or you just think would be good to know. So the floor is yours.
I have a couple. The first thing is boundary. A lot of people, I know when I entered in this space, I was battling mental health and I have real bad social anxiety. And my therapist, she gifted me a year subscription to PlayStation Network and told me, get in there, get in those multiplayer games and meet friends, make friends. So when I entered into this space, my sole purpose was to like play video games and make friends with people who like the same things that I like. And I didn't take into consideration that everybody doesn't have the same intentions.
Right.
So I always try to tell people to set boundaries. If something doesn't feel right or if somebody doesn't feel right, then trust your instinct.
Yes.
Also, make sure that you have contracts in place. If you cannot afford a entertainment lawyer, try to ask questions about someone who is knowledgeable or who has been in this business for a long time that will offer advice and help. I know a lot of people sometimes are scared to ask questions because they don't want to they have a fear of rejection, and then other creators have been burnt so many times that they just do not want to, like, answer that DM.
Yeah.
But I always tell people, like, try not to take it personal. You never know what that content creator has experienced or went through. Just, move on to the next one and see if somebody else to help you. You know what I mean?
True.
Like,
Yeah, exactly.
you might get 5 no's and, 10 yeses. So just keep at it until you gain the knowledge that you need. Also, another piece of advice is if you feel like that you want to do content creation, do it. You don't need
Yes.
equipment, you don't need a mic, you don't need a cam, you don't need top of the line equipment. Just go for it. And let your just rock it out and have fun.
Exactly.
Lastly, try not to base try not to set your goals and your expectations in content creation based off of where you see someone at or thriving at that moment, because you never know what it took for them to get there.
Right.
So just because everything is like it seems like it's going well for them or it seems like they are like thriving, just talk to them and get some insight before you assume, because you might not have those same expectations or goals that they did, and it could be a different situation. So I always tell people also what you see, like if somebody's numbers or somebody gaining partnership, don't look at it like, well, why isn't it me? Just look at what it will take to get there, and you can't wait to get there. So,
Exactly. Hell yeah. Phenom,
yeah.
that was perfect. I'm cutting all that's getting cut, chopped up, and spliced all over social media.
Yes.
Thank you. I love hearing content creators who's been doing this for a while, like the lessons that you are learning, the information that people are going to hear early in their careers, like to avoid some of those hurdles that we had to go through. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, now it's time to brag about yourself. Phenom, where do you want to send the people to check out your content?
My goal is to make YouTube partner this year. So if you could please subscribe to me on YouTube, there will be a possible schedule change where I'm gonna probably be pushing out more content over there and doing like live streams on Twitch, maybe once or twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
So please, I'm everywhere. Social medias, YouTube, Twitch under the Female Phenom. Also check out Stream Reapers. We have a lot of amazing content creators there. We have some events coming up as well. Please check out our website for all the latest horror content and horror reviews, etc. Also, I'm going to be doing more special effects makeup soon.
Nice.
So and I think this time I'm going to get into like the fun part of like making blood and making
Yeah.
appliances and stuff like
Okay.
that. So yeah, just check me out and hang out with me.
That is dope. All her links will be attached to this episode in some form or fashion. As always, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, go ahead and do so. Upload it in Unfiltered. Leave me a review. Send the podcast a text. And if you know any other guests that you want to hear on the podcast, let me know and I'll track them down. Other than that, Phenom, again, thank you for doing this. I had a fun time. Appreciate the convo.
Amazing.
All right, dope. Well, other than that, everybody, thank you for listening. I appreciate your attention. As always, protect your mental, keep creating content, and I'll talk to you on the next one. Peace.